Withstand the heat. That's what we're talking about today on the Relationship Sanctuary Facebook Live show. Welcome to our weekly Relationship Sanctuary show. And if you're just joining us, please do help us share. You want to help us share this live video to someone who might be interested in seeing this video. So I welcome you once more. It's a Relationship Sanctuary, and we are discussing something super important. As a married person, you will agree with me that heat can come in various areas. So life exposes us to many kind of heat, and this heat is not an exception, as a married person. And we understand that these are processes. These heats are processes in helping us to achieve what we ought to achieve. For instance, when the body emits heat, when heat happens to the body, it goes through this heat to release endorphins, to release toxins, to release things that ought not, be in the body. Same way in marriage. When marriage comes with its heat, it comes so that, some things can leave, and so that we can unlearn and relearn. So how you're able to withstand this heat in marriage will go a long way in determining how strong your marriage is. So we can say that a marriage is strong when it is able to, or rather to the degree to which it's able to stand heat in marriage, some form of heat. And there are different forms of heat, in marriage. There can be financial. It could come as a way of, some spouse is not feeling too well, there's sickness. It can come as a financial setback. It could come as a character defect. It could come as an attitudinal problems. All of these things exist so that, we actually can pass the litmus test. And that litmus test is knowing if indeed you can stand the heat. So standing this heat in marriage would mean knowing how to let go of some things to get better. Like I said, when the body comes in contact with heat or hot weather, what happens? The body begins to sweat. You begin to release toxins, from the pores on the skin, from the armpits, wherever. In like manner, when heat occurs in your marriage, when issues come, when conflicts come in your marriage, it is so that you can let go of some things, so that things that shouldn't be found, with you, either with you or your spouse, can be worked on, so that change inevitably happens. So what are these things? Let's look at these things, this kind of heat that can be emitted, that can be let go, that can actually leave a union or a marriage when heat happens. Number one is quick temper. Sometimes some couples don't know how to handle their temper. It's important that when heat comes, when these things happen, when a couple go through certain issues in life, they understand that these things come to shape them. And one of the areas it will shape will be in the area of quick temperament. And we know what the Bible talks about when it says, it's not good to lose it completely, such that you do what you ought not to, like what it says in the book of Proverbs 14 17. It says, and I read, it says, he who is quick tempered acts foolishly, and a man of wicked intentions is hated. So let's look at the A part. It says, he who is quick-tempered, acts foolishly. Sometimes in marriage, you could find couples, when things happen, when issues break, we want to act, so quick. We are quick to want to react. It's a quick-tempered situation. You want to just react on the spot. You want to be spontaneous with reacting. In fact, some couples, you want to be the one to first of all react, so that the other person understands that, what you've done hurts them, or what you've done is something you don't like, naturally. So one of the things you want to take into cognizance in marriage is that it's important to slow down reacting. So when one person does a thing, you want to first of all stay in that analytical mode where you are analyzing to understand, okay, this thing my spouse has just done, why was it done? Why is it being done? Sometimes when we take things too personal, we want to react. And the Bible says, he who is quick-tempered is foolish. And I'm sure none of us wants to be in that position where, you are being labeled foolish just because you're in marriage. And so it's quite ideal that you want to fix these things, even as, heat comes. One of the reasons why we face heat, especially as humans in life, is so that we can be refined. When gold is found, is found, in its raw form, it stays in that ugly form until someone says, I want to take this gold and go and refine it. And it begins to go through this refining process. In the same way, in marriage, you would find where couples might not just be there yet. So they come together in that crude form. They come together in that crude state where they are just trying to understand who they are, how they react to things. And that is the crude form in itself. So you don't take that crudeness, personal, too personal. You don't charge it to heart, such that you don't now know how to react. Understand that everyone is a work in progress. Every couple wants to go through that level where they understand that, okay, I am a work in progress. So one of the things you want to eliminate, even as the heat of life comes, and as you begin to go through heat, is knowing that you've got to work on being quick-tempered. Then, number 2, you want to work on the area of lack of understanding. Now, I want to describe lack of understanding on 2 levels. You see, first of all, lack of understanding can come when indeed, the person doesn't lack understanding. So you don't lack you lack understanding because you don't know. You actually do not know. So your spouse can pick at you in a certain area where you're not doing well, and the reality is that you do not lack, you do not know, which is why you lack understanding. Now, on the other level, in marriage, when couples begin to go through issues, you could find a scenario where the couple knows better. Maybe either of the couples, they know better. You know too well that, what I'm doing, this thing I have done, or this thing I am trying to do is actually wrong. This thing I am looking to do, I have done to my spouse, is actually wrong. But certain times we don't want to take ownership. So we don't want to know. We lack the understanding, knowing that we need to do what is right. And many times these things come when our ego wants to take its toll. When you have somebody who is trying to be prideful, who is full of pride, who is trying to say, okay, I am this, I am that. I don't want to soft pedal. I don't want to cool down. I don't want to do this. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Pastor Deji. I don't want to do this, or I want to do that. So it's very important to understand that in dealing with ourselves in marriage, as man and wife, we have to soft pedal. And soft pedaling means being intentional with saying, okay, I don't mind if we disagree. I don't mind if we disagree to agree. Many times people in marriage want to agree to disagree. They want to say, okay, sure, you don't want to shift grounds. Me too, I won't shift grounds. Let it be. So there's a mutual agreement of, come, let us disagree and try to spoil this thing. Let's destroy this thing. Let's spoil this marriage we have entered. Versus when two people tell themselves, come, let us disagree to agree. It will take two couples to be, it will take two people in marriage, a couple, to be intentional with saying, I don't mind if I shift grounds. I don't mind if this happens. Let me suppress myself. Let me soft pedal so that we can get this thing called marriage right. So understanding that even as heat comes, as heat takes different measures, as the heat of life hits us differently in our marriages, because they say no two marriages are the same. So as this heat comes at us, as it hits us, we've got to understand that it's the intention to make it work that would get things right. It's the intention of saying we lack understanding. We need this understanding. We need to bring ourselves ourselves to this level where we say we need to understand this thing called marriage. And many times it all boils down to that initial vision, that initial mission statement that you had as a couple when you were starting. Every marriage, on that ideal level ought to start out with a vision and a mission statement, just as what it says in the Bible. Bible talks about making the vision plain so that he who reads it can run with it. Many times we find couples who, yes, have visions. At the beginning, they had vision, but along the line, as two people begin to evolve, as two people begin, as they begin to push about in the things of life, go about things, they lose track of that original vision, that original intention. Remember what happened in the Garden of Eden. God had an original vision. And so when that original vision looked as if it was now thwarted, what happened? God had to make sure, in order to restore man to that original intention, he made way, and then his son came to die for us. Same way, there's no time that's too late for us to readjust in our marriages, especially if we are ready to go back to that original intention. Every marriage starts out with an original intention, and that original intention lies in the why. So going back to the drawing table and asking yourself the why question. Why did we start this marriage in the first place? Why did we come together as man and woman in the first place? Will go a long way in helping us shape our marriages, not only shaping it, in making sure we are being fulfilled in our marriage. Because two people can live together for donkey years and still not find fulfillment. So the fulfillment is not in two people living together under the same roof, just living together so that people don't label them as divorcees, or that they have separated. Many people are staying together because of their children. They want to stay together because they want to avoid the stigma. The marriage, the stigma of, okay, they are divorcees. This one has left her husband. That one has left his wife. They want to avoid that stigma. So it is not about living together as man and wife for a long time. It is about living together as man and wife, still fulfilling that vision that brought you two together. Still fulfilling the original intention of why both of you have come together as man and wife. Another thing you want to do, especially when it comes to, withstanding the heat in your marriage, making sure you come out victorious, is making sure we are not competitive. We are not competitive with our spouses. Yes, our spouses might attain before us, or we might attain before our spouse. Now, there's no law saying a man must attain first, or a woman must attain first. Whoever God deems fit to use to raise the family, it's important that he or she be pushed and supported by the other person. So what happens is, when couples can't complement one another, when they have gotten to that level where they begin to compete, the woman is the one who is ahead, and so the man tries to compete to prove a point, or the man is the one who is ahead and the woman tries to compete, because it looks as if life is favoring the man more. This is where rancor and conflict inevitably will emerge in our marriages. But when we understand that whoever God deems fit, every marriage goes through a season and a cycle. For every cycle, God uses one of the two to raise the family. For every cycle in marriage, God will use one person, because God understands that two are now one. So God uses anybody he wants to use. He's not particular about, let me use this person, let me use that person. Two is one. So for every cycle, whoever is ready for the next season, or whoever is predisposed for the next season, God will use the person to push the family to the next level. And so when the family now gets to that level where they are competing, where it looks as if there's competition, woman wants to outdo the man wants to outdo the woman, then we find out that there are loopholes. The loopholes Bible talks about the serpent biting when the hedge is broken. So when man and woman stop uniting and complementing one another and putting themselves in that level where there is rancor, there's competition, it's like a crab eat crab lifestyle. You know, crabs, when you put crabs in a container, I mean, it would be hard for you to find one winning the other person. Every crab in the box or in the container would want to pull down the other crab because of the crab mentality. And so when a couple leave that complementing lifestyle and enter into the competitive lifestyle, you find out that they break the hedge and the devil and the devourer begins to look for ways to attack the family. So in making sure that your marriage withstand the heat, it's important that you allow whoever God has designed during that cycle. It's like it's like the seasons of life. Like here, you know, there are different seasons. Back home in Africa, there are different seasons. There's a rainy season, there's a dry season, there's summer, there's winter here, there's the autumn. So for every cycle and every season, God looks for one of the two couple, one of the two who is prepared for the next season or who is able to carry the baton. It's like having a coach. When you have a coach who is preparing his team for a relay in the Olympics, now he uses their personal bests to rate them, to know that, oh, this person will be fit to run this lap in the Olympics. So the coach begins to look for a player and he will begin to say, okay, this person will be good to run lap 1. Another person will be good to run lap 2. In like manner in marriage, when God sees that your personal best is good enough for that season to raise your family, he will use you or he will use your spouse, whoever is ready. So being competitive should not be what should be found with us as couples who are Christians. Another thing that can also help us to withstand, the heat in marriage is making sure we are faithful. Making sure we are faithful. Understand what the book of Galatians 5:22 talks about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, meekness, gentleness. It lists, there's a long list of what we ought to do. So when in marriage, a couple is able to understand the essence of being faithful, you're being faithful, the ability to have faith. Yes, ability to have faith in God, right? Now let's bring that into the balance of marriage. The ability to have faith in your spouse such that that faith or that hope you have in your spouse will not be dashed, such that you don't begin to have an unloyal spouse. Being unloyal, we have a God who will not have us bow to any other God. We have a jealous God who will have us not serve any other God. In like manner in marriage, our spouses ought not, they should rely, knowing that we can trust them in not having an affair with any kind of person. We can trust them in not starting any emotional entanglement with any kind of person. So it's important that in trying to build a marriage that will stand the test of time, that will stand the heat, we take the fruits of the Spirit into cognizance. Taking the fruit of the Spirit into cognizance means making sure you are paying allegiance to your spouse, making sure you are loyal to your spouse, making them your all in all in every area of life. Yes, on the spiritual level, we have a God, our God, Jehovah, who is our all in all. But coming down to the physical realm, your spouse remains number one, should be number one, helping you, making sure you are loyal, making sure you pay allegiance, making sure you are faithful, irrespective of the temptations we will face. Because we must be, we have to be sincere here. There are temptations all around. Everywhere there are temptations. Everywhere you look, where you turn to, anywhere. Whether it's on TV, on radio, on the internet, on the road, wherever it is, even in the church. So the ability to stay plugged into the God source so that he's able to strengthen us and enable us such that we stay faithful and loyal to our spouse will go a long way. And the next step would be making sure there's no division. I like the way the late Miles Monroe put it. He says division is division. That's DI. The word DI, means division, means two, means division. So making sure there is no division in marriage that can cause division will help us to stand the heat. So it all boils down again to what I said at the beginning. When a couple starts and focuses on the vision of why they started, it is hard for the couple to develop an extra vision that is away from what they have started from. So division based on division will become impossible when a couple is working only with one vision. So you will stand the heat in marriage. You can stand the test of time in life. You can face challenges when you are dealing with only one vision. So when as a woman you begin to develop your own vision, irrespective of what vision the man has, then you understand that you are digging a hole for division to happen. When as a man you go away from the original vision you showed your spouse, you told your spouse, this is where I think we are headed, and you gave your spouse this vision. You told them, this is where I want us to go in life, and you have sold them this vision. They have bought into it. Then along the line you develop another vision. Then it means you're also digging a hole for division to happen because of division. And so it's also important we understand that when conflicts come, when conflicts in marriage come, let's not look to change the situation. Let us look to change our perspectives. So couples will continue to run around in circles looking at solutions or looking for solutions to the problem when they focus on changing the situation in marriage instead of changing their perspective in marriage. Whether your perspective is the right one and your spouse is the wrong one, there's always room for renewal. Bible talks about the need for always renewing our minds. The kind of mind you have renewed last year may not be able to carry you into next year, because renewal is a constant thing. Renewal should be a constant thing. So same way in marriage, when you are looking to work towards the right goal, understand that when issues come, when problems come, when the fire comes burning, when the refining fire comes, you've got to understand that don't think to change the situation. Look at how to change your perspective. So when couples first of all tackle conflicts from the area of, let me first of all change my perspective, or let me first of all change this perspective, then they are able to look for the solution amicably and get to the result. But when a couple begins to look for how to change the situation, looking at, let me change the situation once and for all, they miss out on the lessons that comes with changing their perspective. And in the real sense of the word, your perspective, how you are able to change your perspective, will go a long way in making sure you have and build a marriage that God wants you to have. So inevitably, you need to seek God's wisdom, because wisdom has to do with changing from a human perspective to a godly perspective. When you have a couple who are daily renewing their minds to change their human perspective to their godly perspective, then you will find a couple who are working together in harmony. It doesn't mean there won't be temptations to change from time to time, but knowing that you are constantly seeking that godly perspective in your marriage versus seeking a human perspective, because you understand that wisdom, knowing how to apply these perspectives or how to shift grounds or how to change your perspective will help in the long run in making sure that you pass the litmus test. The fires will not go off. The fires cannot stop. Fires will always be there. The heat of life will always be there. But the question will be, will you be able to withstand the heat when it comes? So withstanding the heat is not about you, let me just change this fire. Let me change how this fire is burning me. Let me change how this heat is burning me. Or let me change the direction from where this heat is burning me. It is about, let me change my perspective of how this fire is burning. Let me change it so that I can learn, I can unlearn and I can relearn so that my mind will be re-engineered and I will be able to handle my wife or my husband in the way that God wants me to handle them. Or I'll be able to handle my family, my children, my whatever, my finances in the way that God wants us, to handle them. So it's very ideal that as a couple, and this renewal, has nothing to do with how many years, in marriage, no matter how old we are in marriage or, we keep going in marriage, we will need newer mercies, newer strengths to navigate the troubled waters. This is why God's mercy is being renewed every day. His mercies are new. We don't deal with God on a stale mercy level. Bible talks about how every morning his mercies are new. So as Christians, as we deal with our spouses, we've got to understand that every day we need that newer level of compassion for our spouse, newer level of understanding for our spouse, newer level of peace on a new level. Why? Because we understand that marriage to a very large extent will help us, live that fulfilled life that we yearn for. After salvation, we understand that whoever we have chosen as our spouse, will be the next best decision. And so you don't want to be operating in a house or in a union where this person you have chosen is driving you crazy, wants to drive you, God forbid, to a level you don't want to go. What happens is when we go to God and keep seeking him, making sure every day we have newer grace made available, grace to excel in our marriage, grace to understand our spouse on a different level, grace to take them, to take them beyond, not to take everything they may do that hurt us, charge it to heart every time. There are times when you will need to overlook. And in marriage, when you get to that level where your spouse does something and you are able to overlook, not that you are overlooking because you want to retaliate, but you are overlooking because you just want this thing to slide, and you are praying for them, making sure that, okay, I'm praying for this person. You overlook some things, not because you can't talk, not because in normal you cannot react and bring the roof of the house down, but because you are looking at it from that godly perspective versus looking at it from that human angle, and you are hoping that daily God will help you navigate the troubled waters of marriage. And so we've come to the end of today's, show. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. I do appreciate. Thank you, Pastor Deji. Thank you, sir, for joining. God bless you. And for those who will watch later, please, do watch and share with somebody who needs to learn, a new perspective of how to really deal intentionally with your spouses when the heat of life comes. Thank you so much, and God